At this time, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and privilege to present to you Professor Molefi Kete Asante to make presentation. Thank you, Professor.
This is the third time in 2 months that I've been in Nigeria. And I want to say to the Honorable Governor of River States, to the Mayor Jennings, that I'm pleased to be here. Dr. Ugorji has given me a great honor. And I say I've been to Nigeria 3 times in the last 2 months. First time I went to Abuja and gave a speech at the Nigerian Diaspora Conference. And then the second time I went to Houston in Texas. And the third time is tonight here in Nigeria. So we have been in Nigeria 3 times in the last 2 months. I'm delighted to be here, and I appreciate so much being with you, but I have the great honor to say that the African Writers Endowment is still one of the most important and historic organizations we have. Dr. Ugorji himself deserves a lot of praise for holding together this organization for so many years out of his passion. I think he deserves an applause. It is my honor, my incredible honor, my historic honor to have the privilege of presenting the Quintessence Award for 2013 to the Right Honorable Chibuike Amaechi, Governor of River State, Nigeria. Governor, we present this award to you for distinguished accomplishments as a public administrator, an outstanding contribution to the history and heritage of African people. And this is done by the African Writers Endowment 2013. Congratulations. Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, over the years we've had the honor of having the recipients of the Quintessence Award. Please, there are cameras behind you. Please. To the sides, please. Thank you. We've had the privilege of having the New Jersey Senate and the New Jersey General Assembly issue joint resolutions in recognition of our honorees. And this year is no exception. So there is a resolution, the Senate and the General Assembly, State House, Trenton, New Jersey, joint legislative resolution by Senator Turner, Assemblywoman Ugorji O, and Assemblywoman Watson Coleman. Whereas the Honorable Chibuike Amaechi, the highly esteemed Governor of River State in Nigeria, will be honored and saluted by the African Writers Endowment during its 2003 Quintessence Ball, a celebration of African people in world history, at the Trenton Lafayette Yard Hotel on September 28, 2013. And whereas the African Writers Endowment is bestowing the Quintessence Award upon Governor Chibuike Amaechi in grateful recognition of his significant contributions to the citizens of his homeland. And whereas since 2007, Chibuike Amaechi has served with distinction as Governor of River State, which has continued to grow and develop with the establishment of several health centers, specialist hospitals, a police college, and the Rapid Response Center and Emergency Systems. And whereas under the superb leadership of Governor Chibuike Amaechi, Port Harcourt, the capital city of River State, has been declared as a World Book Capital City for 2014 by the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. And whereas, in addition, Chibuike Amaechi has further demonstrated his uncommon degree of public spiritedness through his tireless efforts as chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, and he previously made significant contributions as a member and speaker of the River State House of Assembly, and as chair of the Conference of Speakers of the State Houses of Assembly in Nigeria, And whereas within all the spheres of his life and work, Governor Chibuike Amaechi has established a model to emulate and set a standard of excellence towards which others might strive, now therefore be it resolved by the Senate and the General Assembly of the State of New Jersey that this legislature hereby honors Governor Chibuike Amaechi, joins the African Writers Endowment in commending his numerous records of service, leadership, and commitment, and extends best wishes for continued success in all his future endeavors. Be it further resolved that a duly authenticated copy of this resolution, signed by the Senate President and the Assembly Speaker, and attested to by the Senate Secretary and the Assembly Clerk, be transmitted to the Honorable Chibuike Amaechi. Ladies and gentlemen,
Thank you, Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been advised that there will be some kind of a departure from the protocol as we presently have it. Our distinguished guest, our Honorable Governor, is going to deliver his keynote address at this time. I will, however, appeal to those of you eating. This is really a sacred event, a sacred moment for this occasion. I will ask that if you can please give him time, pay attention to what he has to say. I also listened to his speech today. If you don't do anything tonight, I will really ask that you read the last paragraph of Dr. Ugorji's citation of Governor Rotimi. He has become the symbol of democracy in Nigeria. The current movement that he is propelling, at the end of the day, I believe will salvage that country. And ladies and gentlemen, please, rise and help me once again receive Governor Rotimi Amaechi.
Thank you. Please sit down. It's a pity that the MC lives in America. I feel quite uncomfortable when they tell people to rise for me, especially when they have in the hall two persons that were my teachers when I was in school. One a bit elderly now, and the other not too a bit elderly. What we do is to respect them, because when they were teaching us, we were between 16 and 21. I left school at the age of 22, so you can imagine if you make them to get up for me in the name of protocol. But let me start by thanking you, sir. I didn't know what qualified me for an award. And I will speak in the manner that I spoke earlier in the day. And I told Nigerians, because not all of us here are Nigerians, we will do an academic speech. And I said that clearly. When we spoke earlier in the day, we were nearly all Nigerians. I hope so. And we had to look at the progress and inadequacies in the governance structure of Nigeria. But today, I would commence my speech having thanked the organizers of today's ceremony who thought it fit to honor me and the Speaker of the General Assembly of New Jersey. I was a speaker from 1999, right, to 2007. And I know what it is to be in the parliament. We had a wonderful parliament that from time to time, I wish I was going to go back to the parliament. You close at 12 or 2 o'clock. As a governor, you have no closing time. You work until you're tired. You work like Senator Cruz. No, is it? Yes? You have to keep standing until you can't stand no more. And I begin with a quote from James McCaughey that says, the difference between followers and leaders is that followers need leaders to help them follow what leaders themselves are following. That is, for you to be a leader and attract followership, you must be following something, is it not? Because if you're not following something, then the followers will not follow you. James McCaughey continues to say, this relationship takes the form of a shared responsibility to a shared calling. Both find each other in a true fellowship to create the world responsibly. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to be here and to be able to share my thoughts with you on the concept of leadership and followership in the African context, in the light of changing perspectives and a most dynamic world. I am much delighted because this topic is most timely and this gathering most noble and deserving of the rubbing of minds on these most crucial issues. In dissecting the theme of leadership in African socialization and the concept of followership, we can easily derive examples, inspirations, and cautions from the ready examples which the continent provides. But first, the dictionary meaning of the term socialization, and I quote, "It is a term used to refer to the lifelong process of inheriting and disseminating norms, customs, and ideologies, providing an individual with the skills and habits necessary for participating within his or her own society." End of quote. Socialization is thus, again another quote, the means by which social and cultural continuity are attained, end of quote. This, in effect, refers to the fact that whether as leaders or followers, we are products of our environment, culture, norms, and beliefs. If you're a student of literature, you will agree that this is the most contentious issue in literature, whether literature is for dancing and playing, or whether literature should reflect society. This, in turn, affects the direction of our society, since both at individual level or at the level of policy making, our actions are dictated by these norms, imbibed at the various levels of upbringing and communal orientation. Therefore, you cannot separate the one from the other, since both followers and leaders, so to say, fed at the same fountain. The African King. In the words of Ali Mazrui, famous Kenyan writer, scholar, leadership in Africa falls into 4 broad categories. First is the intimidatory leader. As Nigerians, are we not having an intimidatory leader now? Are we not? You're not responding, which means you don't have been intimidated, eh? Second is a patriarchal leader. Third is the leader of reconciliation. Fourth is the mobilization leader. The intimidatory leader relies heavily on the use of force and coercion to have his way, always. The patriarchal leader is a father figure who commands no filial reverence. Meanwhile, the third type of leadership derives its effectiveness via tactical accommodation and the capacity to discover areas of compromise between otherwise antagonistic viewpoints. Africa provides an avalanche of examples from the traditional, feudal, all-knowing, unquestionable emperors to military dictators and political overlords. They are bound in the past and in the present. Africa has birthed the good, the bad, and the ugly, and it's for you to make your choice. Perhaps the geographical size and cultural complexity of the continent makes this inevitable. In recent history, we easily point to leaders in the cast of the late Idi Amin Dada of Uganda and Emperor Bokassa of the Central African Republic. Should we forget General Abacha as one of those who belong to the intimidatory class? As a clear example of a coercive and intimidatory leadership. On the other hand, South Africa's Nelson Mandela stands tall as a classic example of a reconciliatory leadership. Clearly, we can see the resultant followership and societal welfare engendered by the duo's individual styles. Norms must be normal. Ideally, leaders must be seen in the true light of what they are, persons called to serve and not to be served. In a fast-moving democratic world, it is detrimental to continue to hold fast to the norms, cultures, and beliefs that ensure our continued socioeconomic enslavement. Leaders must be seen as servant rulers. In a democracy, there must be a tipping point where the followers determine the direction of leadership. Africa cannot remain isolated from the rest of the world in terms of citizen power. But if we say that, we must know that the Arab Spring started from Africa, started from Tunisia. And I'm sure that one benefit we have gotten through the social media is the mobilization of the African youth. Africa, and indeed Nigeria, must remain culturally authentic, but it must of necessity remain dynamic. The normal in quote, the normal world of today is a world that questions, that probes, and that demands accountability from those who are elected to rule. We stand today at a critical point in the history of our great nation, Nigeria. The increasing misgovernance and the growing stifling of opposing voices is known to us all. Our patriarchal instincts cannot dictate to us at the times of decision-making. When our raised voices will make a difference, the discerning can hear the clear voice of change. The people have a say. After all, they do. The concept of leadership in African socialization and followership shows that much of the time, the people are unaware of their inherent people power in quote. Therefore, we have a situation of servitude, trampling of rights, the stifling of opposing voices, and the flagrant abuse of power. In the end, we have a followership that is subservient, muffled, and unquestioning. The People's Commonwealth is hijacked by a select powerful few, and transparency, accountability, and good governance are thrown to the wild winds. Consequently, Africa continues to tag behind in the league of global development. How long should this continue? Like followers, like leaders. It is often said a people deserve the leaders they get. This may not be true at all times, yet it holds a lot of water in a good number of African countries. Without any doubt, both followers and leaders are products of their society. The society can therefore only reproduce itself. Therefore, for the followers to earn good leadership, for the followers to see dreams of development and improvements of the society and the people crystallize into reality, the followers must be prepared to reinvent themselves. They must be prepared to be accountable, transparent, and mean well for the collective good of the land in the micro-governance levels. As the Proverbs say, you cannot throw stones from a glass house. Or, better still, those who must come to equity must come with clean hands. What can man do? Having examined the above, do we throw our hands in the air and ask, what can man do? As many are bound to say in these days of uncertainty. The people are the core determinants of the dynamics of every society. It is commonplace to hear in Nigeria that our votes don't matter. But I tell you that through constant participation and insistence on transparency and accountability in the electoral process, the people can eventually have their way, and the system has no other choice but to be straightened out. The people remain the power base of the nation. They determine the quality of leaders they get and determine the direction of the governance. They can monitor accountability in governance and the strategic direction of the country. Never forget that the voice of the people will continue to remain the voice of God. True, there's always a tipping point. in the words of Michael Mackney, followership, and I quote, followership, like leadership, is a role and not a destination. And for Barbara Kellerman, followership does not mean changing the rank of followers, but changing their response to their rank, their response to their superiors and to the situation at hand. I therefore strongly believe that as Nigerians, emboldened by the love of country, we must stand up to the challenges of the moment. We must stand up, as they say, to be counted. We must question the status quo within the ambits of the law. We must ensure probity. We must fight within the ambits of the law to ensure that Nigeria realizes its greatness in the Community of Nations. Sooner than we imagine, our children will ask us what parts we played in the affairs of our nation when it mattered most, as active, patriotic actors, or passive and passive citizens, even traitors. That time is nearer than we assumed all along. If today or tomorrow we have a failure of governance, how can the governed heap all the blames at the doorposts of the government when they did not carry out their civic obligation of lending their voices at critical times? We have in our hands today the power to steer the affairs of state. We have the power of the voice of the people, our mandate. Luckily, trends in social media and the globalization now ensure that nothing is hidden anymore. From our various corners, we can awake and make a difference. We can make our governments at the various levels accountable. They are not gods or masquerades. They are flesh and blood. We can hold them accountable. Thank you.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the Executive Governor of Rivers State, Right Honorable